Hello and welcome to this Excel tips video. I'm Sumit Bansal, and in this video I'm going to show you how to flip the data in Excel. Now there are multiple ways to do this. You can use the sort functionality with a helper column. You can use functions such as index and sort by, and you can use the VBA method. And in this video I'm going to cover all of these. So let's get started. Here I have this data and I want to flip this data. So I want the last row here, Kelly, to come at the top and then Tasha to come in the second row and so on. So the easiest way to do this would be to use a helper column and then use that helper column to sort the data. So here I would come and enter helper as the column header. And here I would enter 1 and 2 and then select these two numbers, go to the bottom right part of the selection and then double click on this. And when I do that, it is going to fill this in all these cells. So I have these series of numbers. Now I'm going to use the helper column to sort this data and that would flip it. So I select this entire data set. I go to the data tab here and then click on the sort icon. In the sort dialog box, make sure that my data has headers is selected so that it doesn't do anything to the headers, it stays there. And then click on sort by helper and then order would be largest to smallest. Now when I click OK, you can see it has flipped the data. Earlier I had these numbers as 1, 2, 3, but now I have it as 11, 10, 9. So the data has been flipped. Now I can simply come here and delete the helper column. So this is how you can flip a vertical data set. You can also do the same with a horizontal data set. So here I have the same data set, but this time the numbers and these names are in the rows. So again, I would come here, I would click helper and then 1 and 2, and then select it and drag it to the right so that I have these sequence of numbers in the helper row. Now in this case, I can sort the data, but do not select the headers. So select this data excluding the headers. Now go to the data tab and click on the sort icon. Now in the sort dialog box, by default, it sorts top to bottom. So we'll have to change this. So I click on the options button here and then change this to sort left to right. And now when I click OK, you'll see that this option has gone away. My data has headers. This is why we have not selected headers, because in this case, when you're sorting left to right, you cannot use headers. So with this data, I would come here, click on row 3 because it has the helper numbers, and then go to largest to smallest. And now when I click OK, it again flips the data horizontally. So the data point that was here has now come to the beginning. If you're using Microsoft 365, then you would have access to a new function called sort by. And with this function, you can quickly flip any data set. And if you're not using Microsoft 365, you can still do that using the index function. And I would cover that later in the video. So here I have this data. Now, the first thing I would do is copy the headers where I want the flipped data. And here I'm going to enter the formula. And that formula is going to be sort by. And this entire data set, this entire table, if you have multiple columns, you select everything here. And then in the sort by array option, you have to give this a value based on which it is going to sort the data. So what I'm going to do is use the row function and select any columns. So the data in any of these columns. Now what this does is it is going to give me an array of numbers. So if I select this and press F9, it gives me the row numbers, row number 2, 3, 4. So it comes here 2, 3, 4, 5 till 12. Now the reason I want this is because now I'm going to use this as my sorting criteria. So this is like a virtual helper column where I have the numbers and I would sort it in a descending order starting from the last number, which would be the highest. So 12, then 11, then 10 and so on. So let me press Ctrl Z to get the row formula back. And here I would choose the sorting in descending order. And now when I hit enter, it would instantly give me this result. And you can see this is the flipped data set. So here I have Kelly Lawrence and 2446, and this is the value here. So this has flipped my data. Now, once you have the formula, you can keep the formula if you want to have this dynamic, or you can convert it into static values. So right click, go to copy, then right click, go to paste special, click on values and then click OK. So now you have your flipped data using the sort by function. If you're not using Microsoft 365, then you can use the index function to flip the data, and it's available in all the Excel versions. So let's see how to do this. Here I have these names and I want to flip this data. So I would copy the header, paste it here, and here I'm going to use the formula. So the formula is going to be index, and my array would be these names, and I would press F4 to lock this. Now what I want to do is I want to give index function a number that should go from the highest value to the lowest value. So from this number to this number in this data set. So I'm going to use the rows formula, and here I'm going to select this entire data set. Now, as of now, if I select rows and show you what value this is going to give me and press F9, it gives me 11 because it gives me the total number of rows between this range. So how many rows are there in between A2 and A12? It would be 11. But in this case, I'm going to come to the second reference and press F4 to only lock the second part of the reference. Now see what happens. I close the bracket, hit enter, it gives me the last name, which is Kelly Lawrence, because it is now in this data set picking up row number 11. But when I drag this down, it is going to flip the data. And this happens because in this cell in here, rows A2 has changed to A3. So here I had A2 and then A12. So the total number of rows in between were 11. But as I drag down, this value keeps on changing. So now it becomes A3 to A12 and the total number of rows in between this becomes 10. So this is how it is going to keep changing, and it is going to keep giving me the values starting from the last one and then going up. So this flips my data. Now this is for one single column. You can also do that for two columns, but the formula would be slightly different. So in this case, again, let me copy the headers and use the index formula. So here, this is my array. I would press F4 to lock this. Now I have to give it a row number and a column number. So in this case, again, the row number would be rows, and select any of these columns. So the data in any column doesn't really matter, and lock the second reference. And in case of columns, so this is going to give me the row number, and again works the same way as we just saw in the single column example. But now in the column number, I need to give it 1 here for fetching the names and then 2 for fetching the sales. Now you can manually input these as well, but let's make this dynamic. So I'm going to use columns, and here I'm going to use A2 is to A2, but then I'm going to lock the first part of this reference. Now what this does is when I'm going down, this value would change, this would remain as is, but when I'm going to the right, this value would remain as is and this value would change. So see what happens when I hit enter, I drag this down, this works. And now when I drag this to the right, this works as well. So Kelly Lawrence 2446, which is this, and then Tasha 9002, which is this. So you can flip the data using index, whether you have one single column or you have an entire Excel table with multiple columns. If you have to flip the data quite often, then you can use a VBA code and save that code in a workbook so that the next time you have to do it, you can easily just select the data and flip it. And if you want to reuse it in all your workbooks on your system, then you can save that code in the personal macro workbook. And I did a video last week on how to create and save codes in the personal macro workbook, and I would have a link in the description. Now here I have the data that I want to flip, and the first thing I want to do is have the developer tab in the ribbon. Now, if you do not have the developer tab, right click on any of these tabs, go to customize the ribbon, and in the Excel options dialog box, make sure that the developer tab is checked, and now click on OK. So this is going to make the developer tab appear. Now in the developer tab, click on Visual Basic. This is going to open the VB editor, and here on the left, I have Project Explorer that has all the files that are open. Now, if you do not see the Project Explorer, go to the view option here and then click on Project Explorer, and this would appear. Now in this file, and the file name here is flipdata.xlsx, in this file I'm going to insert a module and then copy paste the VBA code in it. So I would right click on any of these objects, go to insert and then click on module. Now this inserts a new module, and this is the module code window where I'm going to copy paste the code. And I have the code here in this notepad. I would also have this code in the description of the video so you can copy paste it and use it. Now here I'm going to paste this code and then run it. Now before running the code, I would have to select this data. So the data that I want to flip, excluding the headers. So do not select the headers in this case. Now again, go back to the VB editor, and here select any line in the code and then click on this green play button. You can also use the keyboard shortcut F5 to do this, and see what happens. In this case, as of now, I have Joe Perkins as the first name and Kelly Lawrence as the last name, and this is the order. And see what happens when I do this. When I run this code, it instantly flips the data. Now I have Kelly Lawrence here in the top and Joe Perkins goes to the bottom. So you can do that if you have one single column, you can do that if you have multiple columns. Just select the data and run the VBA code. So these are a couple of methods that you can use to flip the data in Excel. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Also, if you're liking these videos, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and click on the bell icon so that you never miss out on any new Excel tips video I come up with. Thank you and have a nice day.